Hey everybody, this is Riding in the Weeds. We are here for episode 94. Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have you along for the ride today. We're going to chat about going with the flow. So we're kind of just going to go with the flow with this episode. I think we might have had a little bit of a conversation around this before, but this is also going to be a little bit of a catch up. Let you guys know a little bit of what's been going on with Ginny and I. Things have been, I don't know, for me, I'm back on the who knows what's going to happen next train. So this is a really good episode with me. And Ginny's coming into summer, so she's a little bit on the who knows what's going to happen next.
Hanging on desperately.
Hanging on, right? My life feels like we just throw a box of crayons up in the air and see where they'll land. It seems like a bit of a better analogy than playing lawn darts, because that sounds a little more, I don't know, drastic, dangerous. So much danger going on here, because I'm just going with the flow. So I am Natasha Lockie. If you have been here before, thank you for coming back. We love having you and really enjoy that you're listening. And if you have not been here before, I am a mountain bike coach and a life performance coach. I also am just getting my feet on the ground with my new VA business, where I help you get out of your own way and start doing the things that you want to get happening in your business life. And we're here with my amazing co-host, Ginny, as always. Ginny, quick intro, and then let's chat about going with the flow.
Yeah, I'm Ginny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you want to get to know your pet on a deeper level, then that would be a great reason to have a session together and we can dive in and explore life from your pet's perspective.
Awesome. All right, so going with the flow. Actually, let's just kick that off on that topic. When we have our animals, how does going with the flow? Then we'll talk about mountain biking. Let's get in. How's it important? How does it reflect? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I have to laugh because there's something that we frequently call horse time. And that just is that things take however long they take when you're with horses, and you can't rush things. You might have an agenda, but it might also get thrown out the window because there's something else that needs addressing or needs to be taken care of, or somebody needs to be bandaged or doctored, or the fence could be broken. Any number of things can happen. And sometimes if there's another person at the barn where you are, then you get into conversations and somehow time just doesn't flow normally, and you look at your watch and it's 3 hours later than you thought it was. So yeah, when it comes to animals, going with the flow is pretty important because they have their own ideas and their own agendas and their own thoughts. And I think when we as humans, the harder we hold on to our agenda when it comes to our pets, the less likely we are to be able to stick to our agenda. So I've learned, like I said, particularly with the horses, which require more work and more focus than just a dog or cat sometimes, you've got to be able to allow for flexibility. You can have ideas in mind, but it's important to address what happens and what comes up, because that is likely more important than whatever was on your to-do list for the day. So I might have a plan to ride, and that plan might change when I get to the barn and find something has happened, or decide the weather is not good enough, or like 3 doors down from the farm where I am, they've been tearing down a house. So there's been lots of machines and noise and all kinds of things going on. And I've had to factor that into my plans just because it is another thing going on in our environment. It hasn't affected it too much, but it's just something else that's there that I have to consider. So going with the flow with your pets is pretty important, and they will teach you that skill whether you like it or not.
Well, and I think it's also interesting because we have opportunities with our pets, like our dog. We will train them to train us, right? And so you put out these articles around daylight saving time where it's like, be aware that your animal's going to be off, and not understanding why they're not getting their meal at the time that they expect for their meal. And I think it's something to be conscious of, because if we notice when we're starting to train the animal to expect something at a certain time, or the other way around, the animal is actually training you to do something at a certain time. It seems to have worked really well, actually. With Tiaki, he likes to go for a walk after dinner. And dinner could be any time, like our dinner, not his dinner. His dinner will also be any time. He doesn't get dinner at 5 o'clock every day. He might get it around that time. And when we realize it's 6:30 and he hasn't eaten, it's like, oh, dude, sorry, bud. But he's patient because he can see we're doing stuff. And he's been trained to understand that sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it happens early because we're going to do something, or sometimes it happens late because we're doing something. And he would rather be here in the office with me than follow Ian down to get his dinner. But if he's hungry, he'll be like, you know what? I saw Dad going to the camper. I'm going to go and see if I can get myself some food, right? And it seems to be a communication process that we have that's working really well. And the same thing with, like, he goes with the flow. We're having dinner. Generally, cleanup has to happen. I like to do the dishes. So if we're having dinner and he's like, I want to go for my walk, he'll sit there and he'll watch. And he'll be like, okay, you're still eating dinner. And then dinner gets ended. And if I go and start doing the dishes, he's like, okay. But then if I try and sit down after that point, then he will be like, woof, woof, you know, and it's a going with the flow on kind of both sides. And I think it's something to really be aware of. We train ourselves, we train our partners, we train our pets, we train those around us to either be in a rigid groove which disallows the flow, or we actually can train ourselves and everyone around us to really be in a state of flow where it's not so much a timing as a things need to happen once they've happened, or how they happen, or when they happen. That can kind of be in a flow. And I think if you can pick what's important, everything will flow around that. And then when the box of crayons gets thrown in the air, as you say, it's like, what's the important things that need to stay in the routine? And I struggle on days where we do our podcast early. If I can't get my workout in before we do the podcast, there's a good chance it won't happen for the rest of the day, which is something I have to work on with being able to shift and move. Okay, well, because the day gets started and then it's like, where do I stick that hour in?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's gone.
Yeah.
But the more we can flow with that, maybe I can find another place and I can train myself to be okay or be motivated or inspired to get my workout done. It's as opposed to it being like, well, the time that it was supposed to happen didn't happen, so that's out the window. That's where those rigid structures really don't serve us, right?
Yeah. I used to tell people when they would come to the barn, when I was running the boarding barn, they would come and do a visit to see the place and potentially talk about boarding their horse there. And my favorite thing I would tell them is inconsistency is consistent. Yeah. And when it comes to our pets, many people would do well to throw more inconsistency into their routine because it prevents your pet from getting stressed about things. When people would ask me, they're like, well, don't the horses get stressed out about feeding it? I'm like, no, because they don't know when it's going to happen. So they aren't worried about it happening. It'll happen whenever it happens. And especially in the summertime when the majority of horses were only getting fed once a day in the barn, that could have been anywhere from 6:30 in the morning to 9 p.m. at night. And they were never stressed about it. And I even had herds of horses that were fed at different times of day because I had some owners coming in and feeding their own horses versus feeding the entire group of horses. And it was never an issue. Yeah. And so many people were flabbergasted that that was possible, because they always thought, oh, well, the horses always get so worked up about being fed. And I'm like, yeah, but when you don't treat it that way, it doesn't happen that way. And that's what you've built with Tiaki, is just this beautiful, very fluid thing. So he doesn't get stressed about when the food's going to show up, or that the food always shows up after this step. Yeah. And my cats, I've had to have a little bit more structure with, because that's how they do best with me. But when we're on vacation, the cat sitter might show up an hour or two around when we would normally feed them, and they're fine. It's just that in our life, when we're home, having some structure for them does better. But if they're crying an hour before they're usually fed, I still don't feed them. Yeah. I'm like, no, it's not time yet. It's soon, but not yet. And the same is true of dinner in the evenings versus breakfast. They normally get fed at 7. And so if we eat dinner early one day and I still have 30, 45 minutes before they get fed, I still don't feed them, even though they're screaming at me because we're done with dinner and they're associating us finishing dinner with them getting fed, because there's many times where that's how it happens, because that's where the clock just happens to be when we finish dinner. I don't like finishing dinner that late, but it happens. Yeah. So the inconsistency can help support our pets to allow for more fluidity and reduce the stress level overall. But I think there's 2 aspects to this. And one is going with the flow within our daily life. Like you were talking about, if we record early, that disrupts your flow with your usual workout routine because the day has started. And so you just keep moving on. I have the same problem. If for some reason I get out of my usual system for meditating in the morning, I generally do it right after I feed the cats. If for some reason I get up early and I start doing stuff and then I go feed the cats, that's often when I can forget my meditation. And it's like the day just starts and I'm just rolling along and miss doing that. So then I have to intentionally figure out when to add it back in and take a few moments and sit down and do it. But then there's the bigger picture of having our life patterns disrupted. And that can be a change of a job, that can be travel, that can be a health issue that comes up for ourselves or someone that we have to caretake for. It can be a job loss or a new job coming in. Those sorts of bigger disruptions that disrupt the system of our lives over more than just one day, those things can be more challenging because I know I like a certain level of consistency and routine in my day. And when I don't get that, it's really hard for me to feel grounded and stable and focused. But yet the disruption can be valuable because getting too stuck in your routines is not useful. But sometimes it can be really hard to adapt to those bigger changes that happen that disrupt more than just the day's routine.
Yeah, well, and I think bringing the whole mountain biking concept in could be helpful because when I'm teaching mountain biking, I love to teach flow. And pump and flow is kind of my favorite thing to really get people to feel and understand. And what that looks like is if you're constantly moving your bicycle underneath you to create your balance. A lot of people get on a bike and they get in their proper bike position and then they're rigid within it. And then the bike's so controlled that it's bumping along the trail. And I always say, if your head is bobbing around like crazy, then you're doing it wrong, right? What you want to be able to do with your body is to absorb the bumps and the jiggles and all of the things that are happening underneath you. If you're super rigid on top of the bike, then those bumps are going to go straight through the bike and into your head, right? So then you're being thrown around and you're constantly feeling off balance. But if you can move the bike from side to side and pump with the trail, if you're constantly in motion and that bike is constantly in motion, then you're always able to find balance wherever it is. You get bumped and the bike goes right, you just let the bike roll to the left because you're used to moving the bike around and finding your balance within that movement. And I think that kind of speaks to what you're saying is that when we're rigid within our lives and when everything has to happen in a certain way, in a certain time and all of that stuff, you have your parents come visit and it's going to be really, really stressful because now nothing is the same and you're actually unable to really enjoy that company because they're in your way when you're doing dinner. They're in your way when you want to use your office. They're in the way when you want to have your shower at 7 a.m. in the morning. It's going to feel abrasive to have people visiting. And if you're not able to move with the rhythm, then you're not going to want to have people come stay with you because it's always going to be abrasive to what you're doing and it's not going to be enjoyable for you. However, if we can find a way to move within it. And it's not necessarily saying that it was easy for me. It was not. When we suddenly were like, oh, okay, we're not staying in this house. We're not staying in this job. We need a new job. We need to like get from A to B. We're going to be on the road. There's things to do. I had a plan. Plan's out the window. It was a challenge to be in the camper. I got no cell service. There's all of this stuff that I was like, the next 2 weeks, I'm going to get my stuff together. And then I basically couldn't. And allowing that to be that way and allowing you know what, I'm not in control of this ship anymore. And actually, I'm never in control of this. And
right.
I think that's what we need to come to that. And that's the whole, like, how to get stuck in the weeds. Think that you have control of this freaking anything. And again, I would see that with my mountain bike people, and I would be like, so you are trying to control the bike and you can't. Where else does this show up in your life? And they would look at me and be like, oh, burn. You
I
know?
have the same experience when I set people up with horses. They're like, well, the horse won't listen to me. I'm like, well, where else does that show up in your life? There's always other places where those patterns come out. And that's the whole value of what we are trying to do here, is find those patterns that we've learned to manage in our passions and our sports and apply them to the rest of life.
Yeah.
And so figuring out, okay, well, if we need to flow over the bike and allow the bike to move around underneath us, how can we allow things in our life to move around while maintaining the pieces that are very important? And that's like core stability. Like, okay, that piece doesn't get sacrificed no matter what happens. My meditation piece doesn't get sacrificed. And I maintained it while my parents were here. My rhythm looked a little bit different, but I still maintained that piece in some way, even while they were here. And even when I go on vacation, that piece doesn't change. I don't always get my like movement piece in. I have a little bit of movement meditation I do in the morning. And I also prefer to lay in constructive rest with my knees up. And sometimes there's just not quite the right place to do that in a hotel room or in someone else's guest room or whatever. So sometimes it looks different. But I still get that time. I still make sure that time is a priority for me. And I've learned that whenever the box of crayons gets thrown in the air, the biggest thing I can do for myself is hold on to those routines that ground me, that give me stability, that help clear my mind, that help me have better focus, and help me be more present. Because when the box of crayons is all up in the air, I need to be able to have those things that are holding me in place, that will give me the availability of the tools to manage the rest of the instability.
Yes. And I think how we know what those are is by noticing when there's certain things, when they don't happen, there will be key stuff. For us in our camper, if the dishes don't get done after dinner, then we have stuff going on the next day and the dishes don't get done, because then there's not the room for me to clean out the smoothie jug in the morning, which means that now we've got the smoothie jug sitting there, which then of course then the smoothie jars turn up as well. And then we're sitting there last night, and Ian gets to this point where after a couple of weeks in the camper, it's been raining and it's been more of an inside game, he starts to want to just throw everything out. And he's just like, I'm pretty sure if we just take a whole lot of things out of here, then we'll have more room to move. And I'm like, what is it that you want to remove? What is it that you think you can take out? Because sure, we have too many jars in that cupboard, but you can't see beyond the first row of that cupboard. So putting more things in that cupboard that you can't reach is not going to help you. He's like, well, I can't get to the spices because the box is too heavy and it's too big. I'm like, well, we could put it down in this spot because then it's down lower. Well, that won't work. I'm like, well, okay, then there's no point taking anything out of that cupboard because that's not going to solve your problem. We could put it up here, but that's actually worse than where it is right now. And he's like just sitting there, and it's this like, I'm stuck in my box, and so I need to fix it, but I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with the spices, and it's got nothing to do with the walls coming in. So what he needs to figure out is, do you need to go for a bike ride? What is it that you're actually trying to compensate? What is missing from the routine? Have you not managed to meditate? What have you not been able to do that these dishes are in the way of, or this is in the way of? It's a really good analogy for how we feel when things are not going perfectly. The symptoms are that you will start to get frustrated about things that are not the problem. And you can fix those things, but you're still going to have the problem. Yeah. And that's that trying to control a situation. There is something vital that you need to do on a daily basis that is missing, but because you haven't identified it, you're like, I walked into the room and I came here for something, but I can't. Right?
Yeah. Well, and this to me is one of those moments where you can start to recognize the pattern, right? You can see and go, oh, gee, I'm trying to rearrange the cabinets again. There's my flag that something is happening internally that I need to take a look at and check in to figure out what piece am I missing that I'm not addressing? What's the underlying reason behind this behavior? And when we can start to use our own patterns as flags to tell us that we need to change our behavior, that's a huge step forward. Yeah. And that gives us the information that we need to be able to make a change so we can get back into the routine that is valuable to us. And I think you figure out what those routines are by when you skip them.
Yes.
And when you skip them for a day or two or a week and you're like, trying to rearrange the cabinets, then you're like, wait a minute, what am I forgetting to do here? What have I not done that I was doing that maybe I didn't even realize was as valuable to me as it is? And I think that's how we can figure out how to stay in the flow. There's this really intricate balance between the freedom and the discipline.
Yep.
And the discipline is actually what provides us with the structure to be able to handle the freedom and the adaptability that's needed when the box of crayons gets thrown up in the air again, because it's going to. That's life.
Well, it's kind of like you go on vacation or you have a day off. And in my case, the workout was really hard yesterday. So thank goodness it's Sunday. It's my down day. I don't do my workout. I'm just going to go for a walk with the dog. And then you don't do the workout and you feel off the whole time. And it's like sometimes there's as you say, that structure that if you're someone like me, you don't like it. Like, I don't want to get up early in the morning. I want to sleep in. I don't want to do my workout. I want to have a day off. I don't want to do those things. But then you don't do them. And instead of it feeling great, I slept in, so I'm going to feel amazing. I feel like, shit, well, that's not right. I didn't do my workout, which is awesome because I get a day off. I don't have to do my workout today. Well, now I'm like, there's something wrong and I'm agitated all day. And it's so interesting because that structure that you don't necessarily want, or that thing that you don't really think you enjoy doing, suddenly when it's not there or you don't do it, you're like, oh, actually getting up early every day, even on the day off, is a good thing. Okay, even though I'm not doing my hardcore workout today, I should probably do a yin yoga flow because I'm now craving that thing. And it's the same with that kid that's forced to eat broccoli and then they move out and they're like, I'm missing something. It's like, oh, it's the freaking broccoli, right? So this is how you get in the weeds, by trying to hold on too tight. But how you can get yourself out of the weeds is by actually recognizing those triggers and being like, oh, okay, so yeah, I'm going to have a day off, but I'm still going to take the easy pieces of this. Maybe I don't get up at 6 a.m., but I'm going to get up at 7 a.m. because I know getting up at 8 a.m. is not going to work for me. And so there is that allowing of flow and allowing of flexibility, but you can't not feed the dog. Like, yeah, you don't have to feed the dog at 5 o'clock every day, but you got to feed the dog or that's not going to work out, right?
And you got to feed yourself. It's the same thing. Whatever's nourishing for you, that's the thing to hold on to in those moments when the whole world gets thrown up in the air.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to look exactly the same. It's not ideal doing yoga in our camper, but
you can.
But we can. And we now have this beautiful outside area that we can do yoga, and it is so nice doing it out there. But when I'm breathing and then I have to slap a bug off the side of my head and it's cold. I mean, I don't know if cold yoga is a thing. Like, I know hot yoga is a
I'll
thing.
do yoga in the camper, thank you.
Right? I'll make it work in the camper versus slightly shivering and hitting bugs, which also seems counterintuitive
Yes.
as well. The last thing I really want to throw into this conversation is we had no idea what was going to come next. We're like, oh, okay. And then we had the decision to make between this job or this job. And you think you have all the information, right? But you never have all the information. What we thought we were comparing apples to apples. We had 2 apples, and one of them allowed time off, and the other one allowed a more flexible system. So one campground job was we were there the whole time. We had 2 afternoons off to go and do our chores and stuff. But some days we might have an hour of work to do. Some days we might have 10 hours of work to do. And the rest of the time we had to be at the campsite. But that's not like I couldn't go for a bike ride really. Well, I could if Ian was there, but it was less structured. The other job was you're in the office from 8 till 6 with a break. But you have to actually be in the office. And when I'm in the office, Ian has to be roaming around the campground doing something, cutting grass, cleaning toilets, whatever. But then on our days off, we don't have to do anything. So one was more structured. The other was like, when you're not working, if there's a camper, they come and knock on your door. But then everything else was the same. We didn't have services, all the things. We were comparing apples and oranges because the job that we took is completely different. I have this office that I'm in right now that I can come and be in when it's rainy and gross and I'm not stuck in my camper the whole time. I've got an escape place. I've got somewhere to do my workout that's undercover. I've got friends. I wouldn't have had any friends in this other place. I have a hot shower that I get to use and a flush toilet. And I have all the water that I could possibly need, both drinking and not drinking, available to me, easy to access. The boss is paying for the propane. So fire ban comes on, we brought our propane fire ring, no problem. We're not paying for the propane, so it's not super expensive. We have free firewood, all the firewood we could burn. He gave us a gas generator, so the fact that there's no sun, we're not stressing about that. And our boss is so lovely. And the people we work with are so fun. And it's like, oh, this was an orange and that was an apple, and they both would have been great. But by just allowing ourselves to be like, well, ocean, days off, those are the important things to us. And so we'll pick based on that and we will see what happens. And what happens was far better than we could have ever imagined. And I'm sure if we had to pick the apple, there would have been a whole lot of amazing benefits to that we didn't even know we were going to be dealing with as well, right? You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Make a decision, make it the right one, move on. Take those little pieces that you need, figure out what's important to you, and that gives you a way to make a decision. I've been listening to a human design podcast, and they have an app, and within the app they have a decision maker. And the idea is that you can use your human design to move through decisions listening to your spleen. And they were talking about when you're, depending on your design, you might have a urge to do something and it's not logical. Like, well, I don't know if I should eat meat anymore. Well, maybe tonight you don't eat meat. Who knows why you have that feeling of not eating meat today? Maybe your body, your intuition, somebody knows that you're going to get sick from that dish. It doesn't mean don't ever eat meat again, but you might not ever want to eat meat again. Maybe you want to move to a different country and it doesn't make sense, but maybe it's not a forever thing. But when you can feel that, tap into that, and not be rigid, you can actually see when those prompts and those nudges come up.
Yeah.
And if you're in that super rigid, yes, but that's not going to work because you can't see. And then like further down the road, you look back and you're like, oh my goodness, if that hadn't have happened and I hadn't have done that and I hadn't have followed that nudge, I wouldn't have, you're trying to go somewhere. The universe is trying to take you to what is best for you, and it won't feel like it in the moment. You lose your job, your boyfriend breaks up with you, your landlord decides to sell the house that you're living in, things that get thrown at you, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
No, that's not part of my plan, and that's not going to work for me. And in those moments, sorry, your plan doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Make another plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then make another plan and make another plan. Abraham says it's like we make our decisions like we're buying the next car that we're going to drive for the rest of our lives. And she's like, you want to be like you're in New York City. Like you jump into the convertible and then you jump into the limo and then you jump into the Ferrari. You can keep jumping into different cars. It doesn't have to be forever. It can be just right now.
Yeah. I know all of the times where I have had a major upheaval in my life. I lost the job. I had the farm that we were living on basically pulled out from under us. Several times I have had major situations in my life like that. And they have always ended up leading me to somewhere better.
Yep.
And when you can find the trust to allow the flow to unfold in front of you and allow the trail to keep showing you the next piece, the next step, while hanging on to those rhythms and routines and systems that help you stay grounded and clear, then that allows the flow to happen.
Yeah.
And it can be really, really hard in the moment because sometimes it does feel like the world's falling apart. And sometimes you don't know where you're going to live in a few days or how you're going to get paid again or how you're going to get from point A to point B. You just don't know. And it's so scary. But at the same time, if we can just find that trust from within ourselves and say, all right, I don't know how this is going to resolve, but I know it's going to. And I believe it is going to put me in a better place. Yep. And when we can keep going back to that and repeating that over and over and over again, that's when the stuff starts to show up. And that's when things start to reveal themselves. I built my business after I lost my job. Yep. I don't even know how I would have started a business if I hadn't lost my job. I'd probably still be slogging away at 9 to 5 for the most part and pretty unhappy. But as unstable as running my own business can be sometimes, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I don't want to go back to a 9 to 5. I have no desire to go back there. The thing is true when we lost the boarding barn. When we lost the farm, I didn't know how we were going to make it because we had been depending on that income. I was running a business. I was running a boarding barn. It was supporting us. And now we own a house and have property and take care of ourselves and have continued to level up from there. But if that hadn't happened, I don't know how we would have ended up here. We didn't even know how we would end up here from there at all. And I look back and I'm like, well, without that little piece of the puzzle, without losing the farm, I don't know how we would have ended up here anyway. So you just don't know when those things happen where it's going to put you.
Totally. Yeah. I think there's so much to be said for having a plan. I've talked about the book 10x is easier than 2x. And in there, they talk about that whole concept of you got to know where your North Star is. You got to know your goal. I got a goal. I'm going to retire in Fiji. There's no timeline on this. I don't really know how I'm going to get there. Well, actually, I do. I know what the plan is. In order for me to get to Fiji at some point, I need to have an income that doesn't rely on me being in a certain place, right? I know that. And I feel like sometimes when I'm not paying attention to the North Star, the universe is like, hey, this isn't serving the North Star. This is not going to get you back to Mexico. This is not going to get you running retreats. This is not going to give you the opportunity to do any of the things that you want to do. So let's go do something else. So yeah, I think just to wrap this up, the key points here are, yes, you need rhythm and routine. What's important is to know what the bits of your rhythm and routine that are your anchor points. And the ones that aren't, to allow them to be fluid. Like, yeah, you got to do your meditation, but does it have to be at 7 o'clock in the morning? Preferably, yes. But if that's not going to work out, when's the next best time? It's the don't slash all four tires just because, like, you got a puncture, right? Like, yeah, your diet says you don't eat sugar, but you had a weak moment and you had that cookie. That doesn't mean that you should then go and eat a whole lot of other bad food that day, right? Allowing something to be off, but yet letting that flow into just moving it around. So those things still happen around whatever is the new norm, and constantly being able to shift and ebb and flow. And that's not to say when things are perfect, you can do your perfect routine. But just like the dog, when it makes sense, he gets fed at 5 o'clock every day, and he gets fed in the morning at 8 o'clock every morning. But sometimes that's actually not going to work out. So he's able to handle, oh, this morning, bonus, I got breakfast at 7 a.m. Oh, today I didn't get it till 9 a.m. Okay. And knowing, as you say with the horses, right? When there's inconsistency within the consistency, then you know it's going to happen, even when sometimes it's not perfectly on schedule.
Yep, I love it.
All right, so let's wrap this up. I am Natasha Lockie. You can find me at Betty Gohard on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Natasha Lockie. I am a mountain bike and life performance coach. I am really good at adjusting, adapting, and bouncing if you are wanting to create something amazing in your life. I'm here to help, and that's from figuring out a plan to executing it. If that might be that you need to actually implement some business systems to get yourself some clients, if you need to create a website to get visible, and if you have an idea percolating that you want to create into some sort of course, some sort of membership, some sort of podcast, something, I can help you get that out into the world. So hit me up. meetwithtash.com is a great place to book a free 15-minute consult, and we can go from there. Ginny, you're up.
Yeah, I'm Ginny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are struggling with behavior issues or emotional challenges or have some changes going on in your life, that's a great reason to have a session together. Vacation time is coming up as we approach summer here, and your pets just want to know what's going on in your life too. So don't throw the box of crowns up in the air on them and not include them in your thoughts and plans. So that is an awesome way to have a session together and help make sure your pet is supported through whatever schedule and routine changes you have going on in your life. You can find me at soulpetconnections.com and on Substack, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the same handle.
Please make sure you like, share, and leave us a comment or a review, or hit the subscribe button, whichever platform you are watching on.
We really appreciate you all hanging on this ride through the weeds with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Thanks so much, friends, and we will see you on the next one.